Oi, 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 oi. What's up, everyone? It's me, Matt Diazable, coming at you with a new album review. And today I am checking out the band Skillet with their latest album, Revolution. Now, this band Skillet has been around for almost 3 decades now. I've heard their name plenty of times, but I've never actually listened to a song or a full album. So this is my first time ever fully checking this band out. And with this album being called Revolution, I gotta say, it doesn't really feel much of a revolution. If not, it just feels like a generic and bland feeling with this album with some really worn out vocals. So they want to say it's a revolution. I'm not seeing much change in terms of like music landscape or anything. It's kind of like basic rock music. I feel like the main vocalist is trying to give off a very husky and more robust sounding vocal, but everything about it is just coming off really tattered and torn and really worn out. Like he's been straining his vocals too hard, like trying to push through his vocal registry to put on a huskier and harder voice, but his vocals just can't handle it. And I feel like a good example of that is on Not Afraid, Defector, and All That Matters. His vocals just aren't that strong for what he's trying to do here, and so it kind of distracts from the overall listening experience. So I want to play a clip of Not Afraid for you. Yeah, he's pushing himself too hard and not in the best way. When it comes to the vocals, I would say the female vocals actually sound better with this style of music. Particularly a good example of that is on Showtime, but she's like more regulated to a backing vocalist than like a supporting vocalist. So I think it would be really interesting if she like took over more of the singing a bit, the singing chops of the band, and it might be a more interesting band. About this album that I will give some credit to is that they can have some catchy hooks here and there, even when like the verses and the overall song structures are a little weak. Their hooks are kind of strong, and particularly on the song All That Matters, the way they lead into the chorus, the hook is really not that bad. So here's a clip of that.
To rise up and resist costs you everything when you're at war. These three things I die for: my faith, my family, my freedom. That's what's beckoning. Gives me a reason for living. I gotta fight for what I believe in.
Not that bad of a hook. In terms of the riffs here, they feel really flimsy or just overall have a weak presentation to them. There's not much of a strong presence here, and they just kind of like come off kind of cheesy at times, like on what was it, Showtime or Not Afraid. They are also kind of poorly mixed on these songs, and on the song Death Defier, they just have a really like try hard feel to it that comes off as, I wouldn't say phony, but they just feel really corny. So here's a clip of Death Defier for you.
Take a cut, let sun get a load of me now. Forged in flames, high octane. Here I come, better get out my way. I'm pushing past all the limits, from dusk till dawn.
So corny. I will say on the song Ash in the Wind, the riffs combined with the drums actually create a pretty interesting and kind of beefy sound to them. So I'll say that's the one time on this album that they sound pretty good. The drumming on this album is not doing anything special but keeping the band on time and pacing pretty well, which is kind of important. But there's no like flashy, no sustenance to the drums. They just feel kind of lackluster and just, they're there, but nothing about them is very impressive, except for maybe on Unpopular and Ash in the Wind. They have some some pizzazz and some dynamicness to them, but overall it's just kind of like eh. The bass playing on here is pretty forgettable, and nothing really stands out except for on the song Not Afraid. It has a bit of a thick playing style here and has some heaviness to it, but overall throughout the whole album the bass just feels very forgotten. But another thing that I think is kind of okay about this album is that a lot of the songs pace pretty well and go by pretty quick. So listening to the album itself is a quick experience, even though it's just not very memorable or very exciting. There was an interesting moment on the song Fire Inside Me where at the beginning and at the end of the song they bring in some like symphonic style elements to really elevate the song, but they don't really do that again throughout the whole album, and it just feels like a one and done thing that was kind of like promising, but just went to the wind and that was it. Production on here is kind of like okay. For the most part, it's doing a decent job, but I will say on the song Defector, the riffs seem a little bit muddled here and there, and there's some other parts where the riffs seem a little bit lower in the mix. But other than that, the mix is kind of fine, but just with the forgettable songs and everything, the production is kind of like all right. With my first experience done with Skillet, I would say that they are a very, like, they just feel like a very old band that's just kind of existing because they have a strong fan base and people enjoy them, but there's nothing about them that's very innovative, or even though some generic bands can serve a purpose, I don't really see like them serving a purpose in the music landscape. They just kind of seem like they're there because people like basic stuff, I guess. I don't know. It was just very uninspiring listening to this album, and I get why there's a big split between like liking and disliking Skillet, and I think the big thing I see that is like why people don't like them is they're just they're too safe and too boring, and so it's just really hard to grab on or find anything here interesting to gravitate to, I guess. So I would say this latest album from Skillet, Revolution, is a okay 4 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album and give me some recommendations. Like always, see you in the pig.
Been thinking good things about you.